It's not a secret, Trails in the Sky the first chapter is the perfect entry point for players new to the series, and as such, I've been seeing a bunch of first-timers struggling to play through the game on the higher difficulties. In this video, I intend to draw attention to what I believe are the more important game mechanics, and talk about how I'm using them on my own playthrough, hopefully giving you guys, especially new players, a better chance of getting that sweet Health Realm achievement. Now, keep in mind this guide isn't meant to be a true explanation of every single mechanic, but rather a few tips and recommendations based on my own experience with the Trails series, so don't take them as gospel, instead think of them as suggestions. So for the first section, I want to focus on some basic habits and mechanics new players should be aware of. Veterans might be sick of hearing those tips, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page before moving on to the more complex details, which brings us to part 1, the basics. First, you should know Trails in the Sky is a very linear game that will often take your freedom away for plot reasons. Side quests and areas are plot gated in the sense that advancing the story will lock them out permanently and likewise might also prevent you from going back to town to buy items. For this reason, you should always save before advancing through the plot and make sure to always keep multiple saves in case you need to go back. Monsters don't drop money in this game, they drop Cephit instead. Elemental Cephit are needed to make parts and unlock Orbment slots on your characters. Cephit Mass, on the other hand, is only useful for selling, so be sure to exchange all your Cephit Mass and maybe some Elemental Cephit every time you run out of money. At some point in the early game, you will unlock the ability to upgrade your equipment and parts at the Herbal Factory by using new material and sometimes monster parts. Always check the Herbal Factory for upgrades whenever you buy new equipment, but be careful not to overspend your new material as it is somewhat rare. You should have enough to always keep your weapons, armor and shoes upgraded though. Some special enemies, milestones from the reward system and, shall we say, external features, award you special droplet items that permanently increase a character's stats. There's no real wrong way to use these, but I'd recommend giving them to Estelle and Joshua as the other party members are frequently rotated in and out throughout the story. Cooking is an easy way to get extra stats. Every time you eat some food you've never eaten before, its recipe gets added to your cookbook, and whenever you successfully cook a recipe for the first time, you get a party-wide stat bonus. Some recipes also have a secret, improved version with its own stat bonuses that can be unlocked by cooking it with a specific character, shown by the pink smiling face. Remember to use your S-rafts strategically. Those special rafts can be triggered at any point in battle when your character has at least 100 CP, allowing you to quickly react to enemy moves. For example, if your character is about to be hit by an AoE attack, you can trigger their S-raft to move them out of the way. Also, most S-rafts can steal AT bonuses, something to keep in mind especially when you're low on HP or EP. Trails games heavily discourage grinding for levels, and you can usually get by with just fighting random mobs on the way to your objectives, but if you really wanna grind anyway, every area has a secret cave full of respawning monsters you can grind to your heart's content. And lastly, please, for the love of all that is holy, remember to use your items. I know there's always a temptation to hoard everything you get just in case you might need it later, but consumables are meant to be consumed, especially in higher difficulties. And allowing a party member to die in an early boss fight just because you think you might need this 100 Mira tier bomb against the final boss it's just your lizard brain forcing you to hamstring yourself for no reason. Yeah, some of the most powerful healing items are rare, but you shouldn't be afraid to use anything you can buy at the item store, as money is not really an issue in this game. With those basics out of the way, we can now get into the nitty-gritty of the Trails battle mechanics. Part 2. Managing the action economy. Trails in this area uses, for the most part, a turn-based combat system with an extremely malleable turn order. To more easily survive boss fights, understanding how to use it in your favor is key. For this reason, we have to first understand the concept of delay. To put it simply, delay is a cooldown period between a character's actions. Every action has a delay value associated with it, which is added to that character's delay score when they act. The game then subtracts from everyone's delay score until another character reaches 0, at which point they also get to act. Let's go through an example, shall we? In this clip, we started the battle with Joshua going first on 0 delay, Tita second at 11, the enemy Ronasider at 16, and finally Estelle at 19 delay. The game is also telling me using a basic attack would add 28 delay to Joshua, meaning he would only be allowed to act again after everyone else had their turn. Once Joshua acts, he gets his 28 delay, then the game subtracts the lowest delay score, in this case Tita's 11, from everyone, leaving Tita with 0, the Ronasider with 5, Estelle 7, and Joshua with 16. The game is now telling me Tita's normal attack would add 42 delay to her score, once again sending her to the back of the line. But wait, why does Tita's attack increase her delay by 42, while Joshua's only adds 28? The answer to that is a single word: speed. Each character's speed stat affects the amount of delay generated by their actions. A faster character generates less delay and therefore acts more often. In this example, Joshua has a speed of 106, while Tita only has 70, allowing him to attack 3 times in the same amount of time Tita needs to attack twice. This brings us to the first tip: prioritize speed as much as possible. While the speed bonus of weapons and armor is often negligible, accessories and the action arts can significantly increase your character's speed. Likewise, the Lock Up art is very cheap to cast and a big help in boss fights. There are also a few ways to instantly decrease a character's delay to 0, mainly by using Lock Up EX, Shirazard's Heavenly S-Raft, or by triggering an S-Raft. In this case, the affected character will act immediately after the effect triggers. Just like you can use buffs to make your characters act more often, you may also debuff your enemies to prevent their actions. There are 2 main ways of doing so. One is by decreasing their speed with the Eos brand art, and the other is by adding directly to their delay by using rafts with the delay effect or the impede arts. Of course, it's hard to delay enemies forever, which brings us to the third tactic in your arsenal: the ways in which we can force our enemies to waste their turns, namely the stun mechanic and some of the status effects. Stun is fairly straightforward. Every time you damage an enemy, you cause both health damage and stun damage. Once an enemy receives enough stun damage, they become stunned, leaving them vulnerable and forcing them to waste their next turn recovering. Though there are a few ways you can increase your stun damage, it's mostly something that just happens naturally as you fight. Status effects, on the other hand, have to be applied by using specific arts, rafts, and arts. For the purposes of wasting enemy turns, we should focus on applying freeze, petrify, or sleep, as those 3 effects will cause your enemy to lose their turn entirely. Confuse is also a good one, but only in fights against multiple enemies. The others have some niche uses, but in general aren't as good, though sometimes due to enemy resistances, you might have to settle for using them instead. Which reminds me, always remember to first check your enemy resistances by selecting them and pressing start, so you don't waste your actions trying to inflict a status effect they are immune to. In summary, the resistances go from a red X to denote complete immunity, to a triangle, then a circle, and lastly a double circle for vulnerabilities. So, to sum up Everything I've said so far, the each winning boss fights in the Trails Remake is to dominate the action economy by first increasing your party's speed, second delaying the enemy, and third making the enemy waste their turns. Just being aware of those details can already make a significant difference in your battles, but for those who want some extra suggestions, I'll now talk about the party members and how to make them stronger. Which brings us to part 3, the Orbment System. Trails in the Sky doesn't allow for much character customization and build crafting. Every character's weapon type and crafts are predetermined, but you do have a lot of freedom to customize their orbments, which act as a source of stat boosts, unique bonuses, and arts. For the purposes of this guide, I'll assume you've gone through and understood Shira's tutorial on Orbment in the beginning of the game. If you haven't, just start a new save and go through it again, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. With that in mind, I wanna talk about lines. Every character's orbment has a unique quartz layout, and that layout defines whether they are more suited to being a spellcaster or a fighter. Specifically, characters with a single line connecting all of their arts are the best spellcasters, as unlocking arts require a combination of elements to be present in a single line, with more advanced arts requiring higher elemental scores. They also generally have the most EP. Characters with multiple lines, on the other hand, can use multiple blade and shield type arts, which are meant to improve your crafts and are limited to 1 per line. In this Joshua build, for example, I'm using 3 blade type arts that each give me a chance of applying a different status effect to every enemy Joshua hits with an attack or craft, mainly Mute, Blind, and Confuse. Incidentally, the central slot does not count towards this limit, which is why Joshua has 3 blade type arts despite only having 2 lines in his orbment. Now, the first thing to keep in mind about your party is the fact that it changes often according to the story. People will join you for a while, then leave and be replaced by somebody else. Every character has their own specialization, meaning you'll spend most of the game changing Estel's and Joshua's builds to complement whoever is accompanying you at that moment. Also, you often have less than the maximum number of 4 party members available, in which case some characters will be required to take on multiple roles. The way I see it, every party needs people to fulfill 3 roles. First, the delayer, whose main purpose is to delay your enemies as much as possible. For these characters, you should equip the impede arts while also increasing speed and adding as many blade type arts as possible for extra status effects. Joshua is tailor-made for this role as many of his crafts already have built-in delay, meaning he doesn't actually need the impede arts, but craft-focused characters with large area of effect attacks like Agathe and Tita are also a good fit. Second, an offensive spellcaster with access to all elements. Most monsters are weak to at least one, and it's the offensive spellcaster's job to spam the hell out of it during battle. For this reason, they need to have at least 1 point of each main element: earth, fire, wind, and water. This is a bit tricky in the early game, but you can find a quartz named Sweet Aroma in the second chapter that provides 3 points in each of them, making this build a lot easier to pull off. Other arts to prioritize include Est and Speed for faster casting, Mind for the extra art damage, and lastly EP and EP Ut so your caster can last longer. The best characters for this role are of course the one-liners Olivier and Lo, but Estelle works just as well. In terms of battle strategy, you should avoid using the stronger spells, as the increase in damage is often not worth the increase in EP cost, unless you can hit multiple enemies with it, especially in situations where your spellcaster is expected to pull double duty as the support caster, which happens quite often. Speaking of which, the third role is precisely that, the support caster. This role differs from the offensive caster in the sense that you only need to worry about having a high score in the water element to unlock all healing arts, plus enough time, space, and mirage to unlock Lock Up EX Anti-Sept, and Eos brand. Near the end game, you might also want to unlock Earthwall, but that's mostly just an extra. Your wards priority should be largely the same as the offensive caster, except you don't really need the mind wards, as most of the arts you'll be using don't really scale with ATS. Instead, I'd recommend equipping the Mercy wards when you get it, as it increases your healing arts effect by 30%. The best characters for this role are again Olivier and Lo, but Sherazard also makes for a great support caster early on, especially since that allows her to save up her CP to use Heaven's Ease whenever you need extra turns. In a boss fight, the support caster's job is to keep everyone healed, buff everybody's speed including their own, shut down enemy arts and buffs, and whenever you're on a boss fight against multiple enemies, keep them unfused with Eos brand. And this marks the last tip I have for you. The Trails Remake isn't really a difficult game, even on Nightmare, but enemies can hit really hard and quickly snowball into a party wipe if you don't shut them down from the start, which is why this video focuses so much on stopping them before they enact. After all, the best defense is not getting hit at all. For anyone watching all the way to the end, I hope this video was useful to you. The Trails series is one of my favorites, and recording this little tutorial is my way of trying to help more people enjoy it. Thanks for watching and see you later. Bye!